Hello, Monica.
Hi,
How you
how are
doing?
you doing?
I'm good. You know, all things considered, there's a bit of an apocalypse happening, and I
Interesting.
started teaching at an institution of higher education in person this past week. So it's an adventure. I feel like I'm risking my life and limb every time I walk outdoors, but it's okay. How are you?
I'm doing great, and for exactly that reason, I'm very excited about, moving theater in whatever capacity we can online.
Sure.
Finding ways to make what we want to be doing in person work in virtual reality, right?
For sure. It is at least healthier if nothing else. So we've got a project coming up this week, and I say we, but really this is you. This is your baby. You have been working on this for quite some time, and I want to talk about it. Make sure everyone listening has an opportunity to kind of learn about it, and get primed for this production coming up this week of John Lilly's Gallathea. So, first of all, before we get into plot and story and all that, just tell us, like, uh, why, who John Lilly is, what Gallatea is, and then we'll get into some of the weeds.
Great. So John Lilly is a playwright who was a little bit before Shakespeare's time, and he wrote predominantly for boy companies, as opposed to like the Lord Chamberlain's Men that Shakespeare's writing for. The boy companies were ages like 8 to 18, performing for Queen Elizabeth. So all of John Lilly's works are these plays that are very fairy tale esque, very courtly, and very much so like paying homage in some respect to Queen Elizabeth. And Galatea is right in the middle of that. It was written in 1588, and or at least like that's the first recorded performance of it. Um, and so it predates plays like Shakespeare's As You Like It, um, and kind of I think informs the later plays in that style,
Sure.
um, as being this kind of uh, interesting precursor to those plays.
So, tell us, like, what it's about.
Yeah, so Galatea first takes place in this coastal town that has a curse. And the curse is that because they at some point angered Neptune, Neptune will flood the region if they don't leave a virgin sacrifice for him every 5 years.
That sounds. Neptune sounds like a toxic man right now.
Yeah, very much so. Like, wants what is his, and he will do whatever is necessary to get it.
All right.
So, the fathers of this region obviously care very deeply for their daughters, do not want this fate to befall them, and all obviously, as fathers do, think that their daughter is clearly the most beautiful, and that's one of the components, that it must be the most beautiful and the most chaste woman that is sacrificed. So, Galatea is one such girl who has a father who is like, you know what? In order to save you from the sacrifice, I'm going to disguise you as a boy. Phillida also has a father who is very careful of her and says, in order to save you from this sacrifice, I will disguise you as a boy. So now we have two girls who are both disguised as boys running around a forest, being like left to their own devices and stumbling upon each other. And through like amazing logic, they each go, huh, I am a girl in disguise. But that boy over there is so beautiful. Clearly, he couldn't also be a girl in disguise. And so this romance grows. And it's fascinating because they both play these games of logic, and they're both convinced, like, well, maybe this is also a girl, but I'm in love, so I don't care. And that permeates through the whole play. Meanwhile, because that's just plot number one of like three, you have Diana with her train of nymphs hunting in the forest.
As you do.
Cupid comes in and decides that, you know, virgin goddesses running around a forest isn't cool enough. They need to all fall in love. So then he plays a trick on them in which all of Diana's nymphs each fall in love. And this leads to a clash between Diana and Venus, with Neptune kind of caught in the middle, because Neptune is like skulking around the forest trying to find out which of the men of the town has like hidden the virgin sacrifice that is clearly supposed to be his. And then on top of all of that, you also have these three boys who get shipwrecked, and in their after they've been shipwrecked, they wash up on shore, and they're like, you know what? I'm not going back to sea. I'll find work on land. And then you have this subplot where this kid is just running around the forest trying to find a master that he can be apprenticed to. First with an alchemist, then with an astrologer. There's a fortune teller involved, and like they're all bad jobs. And so this is just like pops up in the middle of this pastoral love plot. And that is the framework of the play.
So you said it had some relationship with the court. Lily wrote for Elizabeth. Do you see any associations there that you want to talk about?
Certainly. The first one that I think anyone approaching John Lilly should know about is euphuism. Euphuism was a type of courtly rhetoric that was very, very popular in Queen Elizabeth's court in the late 1580s, right? And so everyone was writing in this style. Lilly actually like popularizes it. He writes a story about a character who is kind of euphuism incarnate. And the thing about this style, though, is that it's all about like parallel language. So you'll have a very eloquent phrase that then gets repeated in using different words, but the same sentence structure, the same, it has lots of alliteration, lots of antithesis, any rhetorical device that can get thrown in there while still creating like a balanced parallel structure throughout the speech, that's euphuism. And so anyone who's watching this, it's going to have, like, the play has a very sing-songy quality to it because of that, because the characters are constantly using this style. But Lilly also kind of does this on a macro level throughout the play and adds these parallel structures into the play structure itself. Hence, like, why you have three different plots that are related but not actually intersecting. You'll have one character come in and deliver a speech. You know, Gallathea will come in and say like, "Oh, I am so lovesick for this boy that might actually be a girl," and then in will come Phillida and be like, I am so lovesick for this boy that might actually be a girl. And so you get the fairy tale elements of this play in the structure of it, by setting up parallel scenes, parallel structures that have just slightly different motifs to them. And you can see that in all of Lily's work. Like, Lily has, you know, Mother Bombi will have like 4 serving boys all come in and say the exact same speech to one another. And that's sort of comic gold, right? Of like the repetition becomes a bit of a joke in and of itself. And so that is the first sort of courtly element, and that is such a structural part of um, this play that it's everywhere, and it's just delightful. I love that aspect of his work because it is so playful. Another thing about it that is hearkening to Queen Elizabeth is um, Diana and her train.
Mm-hmm.
Here is the Virgin Goddess referencing to the Virgin Queen. And I think in this, it's one of those moments where John Lilly, much like the rest of Queen Elizabeth's court, is like, okay, we are really reverencing you, but also, have you considered marriage? Because you have this setup between like, which is better? Is Diana's virtue better, or is Venus's love better? Um, and the play kind of comes down on one of those sides. And it definitely suggests like, yes, you are amazing, and you are the Virgin Queen. Also, please get married.
Yeah. And then
Please
that's what Lily was sort of famously in and out of favor with Elizabeth. I imagine because of his this sort of elbowing thing that he did from the stage from time to time, may not have been her favorite. But I imagine it was a lot of other people's favorites because lots of people were interested in that proposition.
Certainly.
Literal proposition. Haha. I made a pun. So, Monica, remind us, in case we're not familiar, who you are and why you are here.
Right. So I am Monica Cross. I am located in Gainesville, Florida. I am an actor, director, playwright. And this project really has been a chance for me to explore what Zoom theater means, what this new medium is, and how we can use it. And so this production is attempting to sort of push the envelope into what can we accomplish with Zoom, and with trying to get back to the early modern roots of maybe making it interactive, which is difficult through a screen. And as well as really playing with like, okay, so what are virtual backgrounds and how do they work, and what are the elements that make Zoom a useful medium, and how can we sort of play with maybe some of the foibles that it has, and how can we really play with that.
Cool.
So one of the things in this production is that I really want to use the chat function. So if you come and see this this show on Zoom, while I may not be able to do direct address, though we are doing some work with like making some asides and trying to figure out how to tell that language, is that we are going to have an sort of ongoing discussion, like a peanut gallery, if you will, of the show as it's happening. So while the actors are performing, those of us who are not in frame at the moment will be commenting on moments like the weird parallel structure of euphuism, or like how awesome Diana and powerful Diana is with her train, or how bizarre Neptune is coming in and being like, I know that they're in disguise and I'm gonna find them. And so we're going to have that. I'm trying to find a way to find the communion of theater, even while we cannot physically be in the same space.
That's great. Well, some of what you're saying makes me think of Zoom theater as Mystery Science Theater. which is a lot of fun. But I think you're. I mean, this is the game right now: is how to figure out how to be together when we're not together. And it sounds like that. Like we're gonna take a stab at it this weekend. So I'm excited about that. Tell us who's involved in the project, and how you brought that group together.
Yeah. So I talked with Claire about wanting to really involve as many folks from the Sweet Tea Shakespeare community as possible. So I have Nathan Pierce is one of the fathers, and Saki. You'll have to remind me her last name.
Saki Marie.
Saki Marie is playing Gallathea.
Great.
And I'm very excited to have them as in that role. They're bringing a lot to it. I also have Sarah Linares, who was at the American Shakespeare Center in the touring season last year,
Great.
As Phillida. So they are making quite the dynamic duo there. And I also have a number of people from the Mary Baldwin community through the Shakespeare and Performance program. Brett Sullivan Santry, who is an alum of that program, actually compiled the text that we're using, because that Lily has been a long time a project of his. And so this is actually my third time, I think, working on this show. I've dramaturged it. I directed it in person. Now I'm directing it over Zoom. And so in one of the previous iterations of this, I was like, hey, can I use your script? And so now I'm really excited to have Brett, who has also directed it in the past, now playing one of the fathers, also playing the part of the alchemist, and just bringing so much knowledge of Lily, knowledge of euphuism, and just so much like power into that performance. So that's been a really great experience, pulling people. We have people all across the country. I know that several of them, Robbie has been in some of the virtual readings that you've done, the podcast recordings, is out in California. So we have people all over the place coming together through this virtual medium, all of whom have like background with Shakespeare, but some of whom have never worked with a Lily play before and were really stunned, as I hope most people who have not experienced Lily before will be, because I think that this play is really shocking, particularly for a 16th century play.
I like being shocked. I'm excited for it. Like, let's say let's say I'm Jeremy or somebody. Let's say I'm somebody who's like deciding how to spend their Saturday night, this coming Saturday night, and like I have to choose between coughing on people at a bar, or watching Netflix, or tuning into Gallathea. What's the sell? What's the elevator speech? Why am I there?
Yeah. Come and see this delightful just romp through this pastoral utopia. It's such a fun, bizarre play. So come for that. Come to experience Gallathea, because if you have never experienced Gallathea, it's like it is so much more than I can describe it as, right? Like I can say there are nymphs, there are gods, there are shipwrecked kids, there are girls in disguise, and that doesn't get it for what this play, like, it's so much more than the sum of its parts. But also, like, come for the communion, come for the interaction. Um, you know, this is the only night that you'll be able to talk with the cast about this play. Um, and you know, come for the just fun of it. Like, really, it is such a delightful script. It is, and the actors are bringing it to life. Like, awkward teenagers in love, just like trying to figure it out, looking soulfully into their computer camera. It's delightful.
Well, thank you. And I would just add to that, well, I'm always, I'm trying to pick. Well, I have to back up. My words are getting stuck in my mouth. But what I'm after is that Zoom theater, any kind of theater that's like this, is still about urgency, immediacy. This is happening now. Anything could go wrong. Oh my God, anything could go wrong. And there is still, I think, the possibility of some sort of connection emerging. It's not like watching Netflix where like everything is predetermined, and if I pause this, the same story is going to happen later. And so I love and hear and celebrate what you're saying about communion and community, because that's the thing we're all missing and trying to get back. And I think even a little taste of it, even if it is mediated through a screen, is vital right now to remind us of the human beings we are, and not the flat faces on screens that people believe us to be at the moment. So thank you. I'm excited. Can you tell people when this is happening and how to get tickets and all of that stuff?
Great. Yeah. So the show is at 7:30 on Saturday night.
Eastern, right? 7:30 Eastern. Okay.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Daylight Time.
Yes. Ooh. So, if you go to sweetteachshakespeare.com/tickets, there is, in the like 3 blocks, the first one is Gallathea. Definitely check it out. There's an amazing graphic. I love the work that your team did on putting together, like sort of told them about the show, and they put together this amazing graphic for it. It's so perfect in showing the show. So go there. It is a pay what you can performance. Any little thing helps, and then you will be emailed a Zoom link to then join us in Zoom. So you'll be in there with us during the performance. That's
right. And the pay what you will thing means, I just want to say something in case people, sometimes in the theater world we talk around things, but I'm going to name it. That pay what you will thing means you're sort of placing a value on the thing, right? Like, oh, this is worth $1 to me, I'm going to pay $1, or this is worth $900, I'm going to pay $900. And all I want to say to you, I want to evoke all of the guilt that I can and say, you should pay more like the $900. And the reason you should do that is because that money goes directly to the artists who are helping us make this thing. And in case you're not paying attention, outdoors in the universe, it's pretty hard to be an artist right now. And there's a lot of insecurity and instability and uncertainty, and because of the COVID stuff and because of the economic stuff. And so sign up, pay what you can, literally what you can. And that means that if you're an artist who can't, or anyone who can't make the $900 payment, or even a $20 payment, or even a $5 payment, you just get in there, just give us $1. That's all it requires. Give us $1, and we'd love to have you there, because the communion is part of the thing.
Yeah.
All right, Monica, what else you got for us?
Come out, enjoy the show, and I hope to see everyone there virtually. I'll be there, right there in the chat alongside everyone else. you know, enjoying the show and talking about the show.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck in your remaining rehearsals and prep for this
Thank you.
beast. We're excited to see it, and maybe there'll be another one someday. Another.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Ta-ta for now, as they say.
Yes. Have a good one.
You too.